What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for yet another panel show and quite a bit to delve deep into today. We have got returning guests Ash Matic and David Harris back on the panel. Ash, how are we doing today?
Yes, man, I'm good, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Big yourselves up, boys. Good to see you both in. I haven't seen you in a while, Ben. Congratulations.
Thank you, mate.
I know how it is right now. Sleepless nights, but it's all worth it. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm just lagging a couple months behind you, aren't I?
Yeah, you're not far, man. We'll be trading trips soon.
Yeah.
Big up to everyone in the chat as well and people watching at home. Thanks for having me, guys, once again.
Big up to you. David Harris back on the panel. How we doing, brother?
Big up to you, boys. Big up to Ash and the We Are Tottenham TV chat. Hopefully you guys are all keeping well. Yeah, I'm all right, Benji. A bit deflated after the weekend, but look, busy week ahead at Tottenham, so we have to move on.
Exactly.
Can keep the flat cap army too down.
And as Big Ange says, we never stop. But I think it's a good place to start that Man City game. And it was a poor performance. We got dominated by the better side. Got to say that. But Ash, do you think that was Spurs bad against Man City? I mean, was it that bad?
I think Man City did a number on us, man. They did that high press. They know we like to play out from the back. And it kind of interrupted our rhythm, our flow in terms of like passing out the back. I think that's what they knew Bentancur was going to be the main guy that we're going to look for in terms of like creating from deep, starting the attack, being that first phase of attack. Like that's really where they kind of hit us really hard. And then after him, it was Porro. And then I think Kulusevski couldn't really get a foothold in the game either. And so a lot of people were like, oh, Werner was free. Why didn't we get it to him? We did try. But as I said before, I think City just smothered us. And they did it so well that they pinned us back in our own half. And we didn't really see much of the ball. We couldn't really get an attacking move together, in my opinion. So it doesn't help when the front three, I've been saying this pretty much all season. Our goalkeeper, really good. Defense, superb. The midfield options are there to be seen. But when it comes to that front three, something is just not right. There's something not quite clicking with that front three. But yeah, I think that's what it was, really. And it just was down to I can't say, Ange, you should have done this, you should have done that. We've got a few players missing in the AFCON. Everyone's like, oh, we're tired of the excuses, man. We should. But this is Man City. This is Manchester City. This is the best team, not in the UK, not just in Europe, but in the world as well. So I'm not too mad. I think the reason why people are more upset is because they didn't feel like we had a goal. But like, it's just one of those days. I expect us against another team to turn it on. Like, do you know what I'm saying? For Bentancur just to be on it. Even when Maddison came on, he wasn't in the game at all. Do you know what I'm saying? So that says a lot. But yeah, man, it is what it is. You can't win them all. And it's a shame it had to come at the cost of a cup. I think that's why people are more upset. And I feel it because it's 16 years of hurt. We need our own anthem for that, 16 years of hurt. Still trying to believe, bro. It's not easy, bro. Being a Spurs fan, it just PTSD and we need medication. There should be like little pills in the seat that you take after each game, like your high blood pressure, your mental health, and whatnot. But brother, it is what it is, man. It is what it is.
But you look at it like, yes, it's Man City. Yes, the best team in Europe, the best team in the world at the moment. But they haven't scored a goal in Tottenham since 2015, 2016, around that period. What was the difference in this game as opposed to any other game we played against Man City? Because the last couple of years, even earlier on the season at the Etihad, going there with Emerson Royale and Ben Davies at the back, we seemed to create chances at will, especially in that second half. So what was the difference for you, David, in this Man City game as opposed to maybe previous ones?
World-class forwards. for me, is the difference. In previous games, you've had Kane and Son, who's been able to carry you. Even earlier on in the season, we had Son. And what they do is, because they're so good on the ball, they're able to keep the ball, get us up the field and relieve a little bit of pressure and help play in Man City's half for a little while. But ultimately, they also have the cutting edge to be able to put Man City to the sword and be able to take them opportunities. And other players like Kulu and that have benefited from it in games gone by and stuff like that. But for me, I think that was our biggest problem. We were absolutely toothless going forward. I think defensively we were fine. Look, Vicario, I'm not going to get on his back. I don't personally think it was a foul. I thought he should have just done better. Thought he needed to man up, come through the player if you have to at the end of the day. Sure, 6-yard box should never get done like that. However, I'm not going to berate him on it. It's the first mistake the guy's made all season, and unfortunately, it's just at the wrong time. Defence, I'm absolutely fine with. They kept us in that game for the large majority. The midfield, I'm fine. Look, Papa Matsar is a huge loss. We don't have anybody else that can turn over the ball the way he does, or gets around the way he does, and gets up and forward the way he does, and also protect Porro the way he does. So he's an absolute huge loss in that regard. We've got him and Basuma coming back, and Madison coming back from injury, so I'm not too concerned there. But my biggest problem since the summer has been that forward line. You know, who's going to replace Harry Kane's goals? Who's going to score them? We're struggling to replace them. But not only that, his hold-up play, how he sets up other players, we're also missing that. And we're more reliant on Son now than what we've ever been before. We're more of a one-team man now than what we've ever been before. The problem in that game is anytime the ball went up towards Brennan Johnson or Werner, or even Richarlison, even though I thought he done what he could in terms of hold up play and stuff like that, it just came straight back. They couldn't hold it up. They couldn't get us up the field whatsoever. You look at Brennan Johnson, I think he lost nearly all of his duels. You know, absolutely shocking. So that's the biggest difference. We just don't have world-class attackers in this team, unfortunately. And if you don't have Son, you don't have an attack. And look, this has been coming. We struggled against Brentford. You know, they've been conceding goals all season long. West Ham before that, you know, not so long before that, struggled again. Man United struggled to take our chances in that game. And that's the biggest difference for me. You look at Ange Postecoglou and what he's brought so far. His tactics is effective. It's effective against the big six, you know, especially it does bring results, bar that Man City game. It allows us to play football the way we want to, sitting in opposition's half. But we don't have that deadly strike force to kill it off. And it's a shame, really, because when you look at it, we've had a lot of defensive managers over the last few years, but the best attack that one of the best attacks we've ever had at Tottenham. Now we've got one of the best attacking managers that we've ever seen at Tottenham Hotspur, and we've got one of the worst attacks. So it's sort of like flip the script a little, and until we get that sorted out. And the only way is money. We can sit here and go, if Werner does this, if Brennan Johnson comes good, we've been here before, lads, with players like that. At the end of the day, the only way of sorting this out is by going and banging out some big money around, because they're the difference. Once you've got all the rest of the pieces of the puzzle in place, they are the difference. They're the ones that can get you over the line in these games. And unfortunately, that's what let us down against Man City.
Sim, do you agree? I mean, and also, do you think that performance was worrying? Was it worrying you?
Was it a worrying performance? Possibly. I would say I was slightly worried about it because in the last few performances, apart from maybe Man United, even including Man United, last few games we have really struggled to create chances, and this one was that was like turned up to like 100 because we had one shot the whole game. And I don't care what kind of team, what kind of Man City team we're playing, and what kind of players we have in the forward line. One shot at home against Man City is not good enough, and I think we can all agree on that. I know Man City played brilliant. I think we can all agree Man City came to our ground, dominated the ball. I thought the way they kept the ball was amazing. I thought we really struggled to get the ball off them as well. Their high press really suffocated us. We were able to play through it on a couple of occasions, but more often than not, Man City were just able to get the ball back immediately. And so you're playing the best team in the world. Let's be honest. They're the best team in the world right now. They won the treble last season. They're still doing pretty good. They're still in the main competitions this season. They've improved as well on some other players. So this is a team who've had a manager for how long now? 8 years? 8 years Pep Guardiola's been at the helm. Everyone is so fine-tuned. Everyone knows exactly what they're doing. They've been doing it for years. So to expect us to dominate them or things like that, I think obviously that's never going to happen. But what I do expect is at least cause them some problems. At least have a spell in the game where you're getting in behind, where you're creating some chances, where you're finding some sort of solutions. One thing I have seen this season for Tottenham is there have been games where we've been dominated and we've been the second best, like, you know, Arsenal away. I remember Man United at home. We started those games not as good, and we started those games second best, and we were the worst team. We were second best on those days, and yet what we did was we grew into the game and found solutions to get past those teams, and found solutions to get back in the game and start to hit them the other way. It never really happened in this game, and that was a bit worrying. And maybe there are reasons for that in terms of, you know, Maddison wasn't fully fit, wasn't fully back, still missing players at the AFCON, but also, I think a big thing was you looked at the bench, apart from obviously Maddison, who wasn't maybe 100% fit, you didn't really have any players to come on and give you that extra of energy in the last half an hour or so to give you that second win, maybe. But it was a bit concerning how we just didn't threaten them at all. I think if you have like 3 or 4 chances and you don't take them, and then they go and win the game and they dominate, I think you can just accept that. But I obviously accept the result, but it was very disappointing that how little of effect we had on the game. But sometimes you do have to give credit to Man City and to the better team, because they are a better team than us. They showed that on the day. Their football completely suffocated us. They kept the ball away from us for the whole game. They dominated us. They out-footballed us, which hasn't happened too often to Spurs this season. So I think it's more credit to Man City than it is criticism on Tottenham, I would say, at the end of the game. But I don't think you can come away from a game, in any game, with one shot on goal and not be a little concerned about it.
I think it was a consequence of the history of this football match, especially in Tottenham. You know, Pep Guardiola said at the beginning of the season, didn't he? His one thing that he wanted to do this season was to score at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We've had their number every single year, pretty much, especially at home. I did think that maybe it was a consequence of that, of Pep Guardiola just drilling into their squad. They cannot lose this game. They have to dominate this game. They can't give Tottenham any chances. And I think that's exactly what they did. Man City came to spoil Ange Postecoglou and Tottenham's party, especially against Man City. And they put in a masterclass of keeping the ball. They just kept the ball throughout the whole game. We could not get it off them. The small moments that we did get it off them, we couldn't supply it to the front line. I saw so many runs, so many good runs, especially from Timo Werner in that first half, and we just weren't finding him. When Brennan Johnson was getting on the ball, I thought he was getting dispossessed more or less every single time. He failed to threaten going on the outside. So I agree that we lost that X factor in Heung-min Son, and if Heung-min Son was there that game, then maybe it could have been a different outcome, and Pape Matar maybe being that energy in the middle of the park. But I just felt like Man City just did a complete number on us, and it was so hard for us just to even get a foothold on the ball, never mind get a foothold in the game and start to threaten Man City. But Ash, were you worried looking at that, or do you think it was just a consequence of really key players being out on the day and Man City playing to the best of their abilities?
I am slightly worried, because I just think the movement of the front three and sometimes the timing of the passes was a little bit off. Sometimes, like you said, Werner was on, and then we're too slow to pass, he'll go offside. And then sometimes I saw Johnson and Richarlison running a little bit too early, so then that pass wasn't always on. So then he had to go through and pass it into another player. Now, my critique of Richarlison, even though he's on a hot streak at the moment, little purple patch, is that sometimes he just runs to the byline or into the 6-yard box. I would like to see him peel off, maybe, slow his run down, go to the penalty spot, and then that can create another angle for one of our wingers when they get to the byline, and they can do little cutbacks. Because I haven't seen a little cutback in a while. That's one thing I used to really like about the Ange system, is that the wingers are able to do that. And then equally, when we're on the byline, I want to see more players flood the box so we take more risks going forward. On the ball, it just wasn't quite clicking, as I said before. So I do have a glimmer of hope that the quality of passes and the actual final ball wouldn't be so predictable at times, because a lot of those balls were being blocked, couldn't get past the first man at times. Even Porro, I was like, Porro was really good at crossing, but that game just wasn't coming off from it. There was one ball he did put in, and then it came to nothing, unfortunately. But I just felt like in that first half especially, we were rushing it. I don't know why. We're like boom, 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 boom. And that's where we lost possession a lot of the times. And I was like, slow down, my guys, slow down. Because if we slow down just a little bit and just have 2 or 3 passes, we can control the game a bit more. And I just felt like we were going too gun-ho too soon. They read that and we just kept losing possession in our own half. And that's what created them a lot of chances, if that makes sense. So, like, for me, it's just, guys, take your time, breathe, and let's start looking at different solutions and different options, like in terms of building out from the back. I saw one time Udogie tried to jump in when I think it was either Van der Ven or Romero was on the ball. And you know, when Vicario passes out from the back, sometimes what happened was Udogie ran into that kind of number 6 role. So then that was another out ball. But they were wise. They were doing like a real physical man-to-man press. And sometimes we took too many touches, and that's the reason why we lost it. But I agree with David's point. In terms of our wingers, the wingers sometimes need to be able to get on the ball and then just carry up the pitch, if that makes sense. So we need that quality in that position. If you haven't got a player that can carry up the pitch, Kulu's the only one that can carry it, or your dog, I'd say. But at certain times, if they're not able to do it, and your wingers you're relying on, they can't carry up the pitch, then we haven't really got a way to kind of bring it out. But that's just that game in isolation, in my opinion.
David, I mean, you criticise the front three. In terms of Brennan Johnson, he's come under a lot of criticism over the past couple of weeks. Do you feel that, you know, he needs a bit of time out of the team and someone else needs to step up, or do you feel like we just need to keep persisting with him?
Look, I'll get on to Brennan Johnson in a minute because it's sort of it's a point that I'm going to make off the back of a point. Look, personally, I actually think Man City outworked us in that game, and I think that's what 100%. It came down to, especially out of possession. Look how quick they were to push everyone up, make sure everyone had a man so there was no outballs. We weren't doing that, and we haven't done it since the first 10 games of the season, so our press has been non-effective. And that gets me on to my wider point. With Brennan Johnson, just a couple of match stats from him from the game. Completed 0% of his crosses, completed just 50% of his passes, won 0 of his 3 duels. And he got dribbled past once, gave away possession 13 times, and missed Spurs' only big chance sort of the game. So that goes to show, you know, how poor he really was on the night. The problem that I think Brennan Johnson has got is, and I think it's a problem with the whole front three right now, is they all need to be provided with chances. They're not guys you look at that go, yeah, he can create. Werner can't do it. Richarlison can't do it. Johnson can't do it. They're guys that need to be put through to use their pace, to give them time to be able to bury the ball in the back of the net. They're not creators. None of them are. And that's our big problem. But in terms of Brennan Johnson, I get that many fans are losing patience with him. I'm one of them myself personally. But I don't put the blame entirely on him. Now, the reason why I say that is because usually when you bring in a player of his age and his ability that's making that step up, usually you dip them in and out until they learn to bring that sort of consistency. Sir Alex Ferguson used to do it a lot at Man United. Start them, take them out, bring them off the bench in some games and stuff like that, and get them used to it that way. We haven't had that option with Brennan Johnson. But saying that, a new signing coming to a football club, you couldn't wish for a better opportunity in a run of games to be able to make your mark on the team and show that, yeah, you were right to come and sign me. When I look at Brennan Johnson, in possession, I don't think he's got it. The end product is not there. He's been in so many good positions so far this season over the run of games he's had, and he's failed to deliver the majority of the season. He's even been in good goal scoring opportunities, and a lot of his efforts have sort of been lackluster. But with Brennan Johnson as well, I look at someone like Richarlison. Even if he's not having a bad game, he still works very hard for the team. He still mucks in and does a lot of the dog work. Brennan Johnson does not want to do that. You look at go back and look at the Man City performance. There's a couple of times he had the opportunity to track his man back and help others behind him. Chose not to do it. Just let the runner go. Always lay on the press as well. I was screaming my head off. Richarlison's pressing the goalkeeper. There's one obvious out ball here to the right-hand side. Just go. And he won't go. He's standing off. He's waiting till the ball gets to him, and then he goes. And it's really, really annoying. For me, I don't think he has the ability right now to be able to play at a top 6. I'm not going to write him off just yet. However, I do think there's a lot of excuses made for the guy personally. It's okay to criticize him, to critique him. So he has to know where he needs to get better. And you can only do that by critiquing the player. And for me, I want to see him drop this weekend. I don't care whether it's Kulu going back out to the right, or I don't care if it's bringing in Brian Hill, who I believe's got a rough ride. He's never got the run of opportunity of games that Brennan Johnson has got. Why isn't he being given the game if Brennan Johnson is not up to it? Brennan Johnson is way too timid. He's a nice guy and he's got time on his side. But he needs to improve dramatically because at the end of the day, where we're going, we don't have time to be waiting around 6 months to a year anymore on players to come here and perform. You either come here, you hit the ground running, or you're out. If you want to be the likes of Man City, you don't have time to waste on these. They signed Calvin Phillips, not working out. Look how quickly they got him out of the football club. We need to start doing the same.
It was 18 months it took him.
Still, how long do we hold on to players?
No, fair enough.
But I think what backs up your claim as well, I think Pedro Porro was shouting and screaming at Brennan Johnson a lot to come help him track back, stay with your man, track your man. And I'm not as harsh on Brennan Johnson as maybe you are. I still think he's got something about him and I think he can improve in a Spurs shirt. But I do agree. I think he should come out the team for a game or two and see if it does work. Push Kulu back onto the right. Maybe stick a Skippy or a Højbjerg back in the middle and see how we go. But, you never know. Pape Sarr could be back for the Everton game if they do go out tonight. I think we're all Ivory Coast fans tonight just to get Pape Sarr back in the team. But another question I have is on Ange Postecoglou, because I'm seeing a lot of kind of heat come his way after the game as well, talking about game management, talking about team selection. I think it's absolutely mental to throw criticism and shade at Ange Postecoglou for that loss. But Sim, what's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I think it's nuts. I don't think he had many options in terms of first of all team selection. I don't know what he could have done except for maybe start Maddison. Apart from that, I'm looking at the bench and there is nothing there. Could he have played a back three maybe? Is there an argument there? I mean, it's hard to criticise him for not playing a formation we haven't played all season. So I don't think that's a criticism. Could he have made changes earlier? I mean, maybe.
That's the only slight thing I can think of.
But I don't know if that would have made a difference. I don't know. I don't know how much Maddison had in his legs. I don't know if bringing on Skippy an extra 20 minutes earlier makes a massive difference. I don't think it does. And you got to remember as well, the game I thought really changed when City brought on De Bruyne and Doku on 65 minutes. I thought Man City were on top and were the better team, but we were having a small period at that point where we were. Wouldn't say on top, but we're looking like we were getting in the game, and then they bring on De Bruyne on Doku, and then it completely flips. And then he changed it fairly quickly after that. I think about 5 minutes after he brought on Doku and De Bruyne, he changed it. But ultimately, we couldn't arrest the slide of where the game was going once De Bruyne came on, and it seemed like it was only a matter of time before City scored, and they did. So everyone's got to remember they did only score in the 89th minute. It wasn't like a pummeling in terms of it wasn't a big scoreline. Vicario didn't have like save after save to make in this game. I thought we actually did defend pretty well for the most part. I think the biggest disappointment is how we were on the ball, and I guess when you coach a game where you have only one shot, not even one shot on target, one shot total the whole game, a bit of criticism has to come your way because we weren't good. He wasn't good enough to affect the game so that we even created even one chance. You know what I mean? We were so far second best on the ball, and that's got to be disappointing. But as we say, Pep Guardiola and his team have been together for 8-9 years. Postecoglou's had his team, and it's not even his full strength team for 6-7 months. So there's always a chance that there's going to be that kind of gap in the game. And the fact that we haven't seen that gap for the majority of the season, I think it's credit to him that for the majority of the season we've looked like a well-oiled team for a lot of games, and we've had this amount of wins, and we've looked this cohesive. But the fact, the reality is, I expected more of these performances in the first 6 months. I expected us to look more like this for a lot of games, and the fact that we haven't is credit to Ange. So the fact that we have looked like this for a game, 7 months in against the best team in the world, I don't think you can really criticise him too much for that. In my opinion, I think it's a bit ridiculous. But as I say, if you want to say in that particular game, should we have done a bit more? Maybe, but I think I think the fact it was we're out in the cup is where the most frustration comes, because it's our only avenue or most realistic avenue for a trophy gone. And
on top of that, a lot of Spurs fans were going into this so confident as well.
Yeah, I thought a lot of people thought it would be a special night. I really hoped there was going to be one of those real special nights under the lights of the Tottenham Stadium where we had Man City come to our home, but we really took the game to them, and it was a really end-to-end battle, a bit of a goal fest, and we come out on top. That's what I was hoping for, but Man City had other ideas, and you got to give them credit. They clearly came to make sure that we were not able to play football, and they succeeded.